Hello everyone, this is Alexander Gurchik, and today we're going to talk about the trends, the local trends, global trends. I'm sure when you read any books about the technical analysis, it's a lot of them. One of them is the book by the Jack Schwager, and I took the interview from a Jack Schwager, even though he doesn't do any interview with anyone else. But years ago, I think 5 or 6 years ago, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, I took the interview from Jack Schwager. I was personally invited to his house. He knew who I am. I was at his house, Boulder, Colorado, and we talked about the books and everything else. So he wrote the book about the technical analysis, and the first question I asked you about the technical analysis says I'm not a professional trader, so I use pretty much all the information which is out there to create one book with just the regular basics of technical analysis. But unfortunately, or fortunately, the technical analysis goes much deeper than you can read in the book. So today we're going to talk about the different kind of trends. So for example, most of you saw obviously the something like this, where everybody say if you draw this line or this line, you have a direction of the moves. Totally, it's correctly that you have a global trend. So global trend is the general direction of the instrument of the market itself. So let's say if you take any instrument and you see something like this, the direction, so you say you have a uptrend. And if you see something like this, when the general direction is going down, we'll call it a downtrend. But sometimes you see basically the instrument stays in a range, so we're saying it's no direction, it's just a range. So the one thing, very important thing you have to understand, that most of the time, if you take the global chart like this, 70% of the time, either instrument or S&P or anything else has the the range trend, so it has no trend at all. So you have a trend, I'll show you right now. You have the trend in a big range, so it goes up and down, up and down. Yes, of course, sometimes you see a big direction like this. For example, if you take the orange juice just strictly it goes up. In the last 2 years it never had even a range. It was always an uptrend, and it's went up I think 300%. So 300% the orange juice went up, and obviously this is just a crazy uptrend. Sometimes you have instrument which is going on a crazy uptrend without big pullbacks. Obviously you should understand, in order for the instrument to go up in an old-fashioned way, like this, definitely, if you go inside, it's always have a pullback, so it's normal. So right now, obviously, we understood what is the uptrend and the downtrend. It's definitely a global direction, a general direction of the either instrument or market. Why everybody talks about the direction? Everybody talks about direction for one simple reason. Everybody say it's much easier to make money with the direction than go opposite direction. Technically it's correct, and sometimes it's not correct. In which way it's correct? So when the stock is moving up, obviously somebody is pushing the stock higher, and it's usually the big institutional investors who's putting the money. I'll give you right now just a little idea so you'll understand. I'm going just a step back. So if you take top hedge funds, right? If you take the top hedge funds in the United States, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let's say, you'll see that everybody practically have the same stocks. So let's say it's Amazon, Facebook, Google, Tesla, and vice versa. What's the separation of all of these hedge funds? The only one separation between all of these hedge funds, this one bought a little earlier than anyone else, and then everybody started to follow. So if this is up 40%, this one is going to be up 30, 32%, this one is going to be 25, this one is going to be 20. So anybody who beats the S&P considers the good fund in the United States. I told you I work in a hedge fund company named WorldCo. We had also subdivision is a hedge fund, and the most important thing is you have to be the S&P. So that's what everybody works. So once you see all of the stocks are going up, you have the uptrend. So it's much easier to buy in an uptrend than a downtrend. But for me, honestly, it doesn't matter, because what I do, I usually don't care about the global trend. I look at the local trend. In no books whatsoever, nobody is going to talk about the local trends. So I'll teach you right now what's the local trend and what's the importance of the local trend, and the most important thing, how to understand the local trend. So local trends, first of all, you understand, if you take any chart, and after we finish with the theoretical knowledge, first of all, you have to understand, you have to know the theory, and after the theory, you bring everything into the practice. So the most important thing, obviously, if you take any chart, it's going to look like this. So, it has levels, support and resistance. So what is the local trend? A local trend. The local trend, that's the location right now of the price according to the close levels. So let's say you locate it here, it's all depends where we're going to go. So if we're going to go to this side, we're saying the local trend is up. If we go into this side, the local trend is down. Technically, I don't probably practically, not technically, I don't even look at the total move of the market itself or the stock itself. What I do, I see the way the either stock or currency or cryptocurrency, it's position itself at the level. So if I see something like this, where it located something like this, I see where the stock is going to go. So once the stock is break, let's say to the upside, and this is a long zone. So this is a long zone, and this is a short zone. So for me, the most important thing, once the stock enters the long zone, I know it can go higher, and I know where approximately it can go. It go to the next level. So once we get into the short zone, I also know approximately where it's going to go. So for me, a very important thing is to understand in which part of the chart the price is located, right? So let's say once we went here, I already know it can be pushed higher. But the most important thing is to understand if the stock has enough energy. Don't forget, once the stock breaks, you have to understand it needs the energy to go higher or a lower. So lower, we do understand why, because that people who own the stock, they try to sell it because they start losing money. When the stock is going higher, it's a completely different game. So you have to understand who is taking the stock higher, right? It's either the investors who's trying to invest the stock, it's either depend where the stock is located, either the short sellers who's trying to cover. So the very important thing of this local trends and where is the location of the price. So I'll show you right now the chart and we'll understand. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna take the, let's say, very well-known stocks, let's say Apple, right? So we'll take Apple. So what we see in Apple, first you have to see if there is a big levels of support or resistance, because sometimes the stock has a difficulty of breaking up. So let's say the closer level we have is right here. You see this bar. So this is the closest level. And as you can see on the right-hand side, so take a look at the right-hand side, we see one very important thing. The stock cannot break this price. It means there's a lot of limit sellers and the buyer is not strong enough. Why? Because the buyer didn't have the energy. So once this price, so the high is 194.48, once 94.48 will be taken. What means taken? It means, I'll show you right now in a paint, you'll understand. So for the stock basically to break out, it has to make sure it's going to stay above the level. So the daily chart, or let's say hourly chart, supposed to close above the level price. Let's say it's a 148.48. So once basically we get it stronger above the level, once we stay above the level, we can say that the stock is going to go higher. So very important thing, that you cannot see this as any book because it's no books explaining that. So right now you see it's 194.51, and then we'll go on a 5-minute chart. You see but it's very hard for the stock to break. So it's not easy. It's trying to, it's went up right at the market open, but it cannot break that level because it's a lot of limit orders. And usually when the stock is not ready, let's say, to go up, the levels, a limit seller would hold the stock much stronger not to break. So in this level, you have to see if the buyer or seller is stronger. Don't forget, people always asking a question: what is the stock market, or let's say the futures market, or crypto? What it's all about? It's about buyer and a seller. It's always the fight between the buyer and the seller, and you have to make sure that somebody is getting stronger. Obviously, when the stock has the energy, as I told you in the previous lessons, once the stock has the energy, it's much easier to break, because it has the energy. So what do you need for the energy? You need accumulation. As you see, we had no accumulation. So let's go with the Tesla. Everybody loves Tesla. Tesla right now in a very good stage of the accumulation. So you see, the stock is accumulating already from November 10th. So for 1 month we have accumulation. First of all, the good part. First of all, Tesla is not pulling back. It's good part. Bad part. If you take a look at the SPY, you see it's going higher, but the Tesla does not go higher, and it does not go lower. You see? So that's the level we have. So that's the level. High 239.29. High 247. Here is a 246.70. So pretty much the same high. 247. 246.66. You see? So 247 will have a very strong level. So if the stock is going to start breaking 247, you see right here, how much is that? 246.66, 246.70. So this is a very strong level of 247. So we know exactly what needs to be done in the stock. So if the Tesla is going to break 247, Tesla is going to fly. Why? First of all, because the Tesla has more than a month of the accumulation. So today we have a November 7th. Tesla started accumulating somewhere here above the range. So what day is that? It's the 14th. So in the 14th is going to be 1 month. But 1 month of the accumulation, it's huge, because figure out one thing: in a value, what the Tesla is accumulating in this case, that's a huge value. So you need to understand, for example, if somebody trades options, once Tesla is going to break 247, the Tesla is going to fly. The only bad scenario about the Tesla right now, that the Tesla is not going up while the market went up. So you understand one thing: you have a lower side of the range, so right, lower level, so it's a gap, 230. If the Tesla is going to break down to 230, Tesla is going to go lower. But at least we know one thing for a fact: that's why I have a 1 month of the accumulation. So figure out, as I told you in the previous lesson, you have a bottle of juice. You cannot pour extra juice because it's going to basically left over, it's going to fly out. Why? Because in a certain amount of liquid you cannot put more. So for example, in this glass, let's say this glass is the half a pound of water. It's not correctly say half a pound of water. So let's say we have a 250 milligrams. It's equivalent about half a pound. So you have a 250 milligrams. Once the 250 milligrams basically fell, you cannot put even a gram more because it's going to fall out. So in this case as well, you should understand the 1 month of the accumulation is supposed to go somewhere. It cannot stay that way, especially in a Tesla. So some news coming out, or some buyer coming out, or some seller coming out. So you know one thing for a fact: if 247 is going to be broken in the upside, the Tesla is going to go. And a lot of times you understand one thing for a fact: sometimes the stock is go because it has amazing earnings. For example, I'll give you a good example: Uber. Look at Uber. A few days ago, the Uber had the very good news. The very good news for the Uber was that S&P 500 will include the Uber in S&P 500. And this is the very amazing news. Why? Because once the Uber gets into the, I'm gonna try to do a video about the Uber. So once the Uber gets into the S&P 500, the index funds of the S&P 500 will basically start to buy this particular stock. So last week the Uber came out in S&P 500, and obviously it's getting higher because everybody is buying Uber. So it's a very, very good news. You have to understand there is some good news about the stock. So I want to thank you very much And good luck to you, and I'll see you in the next class.